Hello, welcome to On Air. I'm Klara Syrewicz. It's Women's Day, and being a woman has never been more confusing, especially by Western standards. So today we'll reveal some new, unexpected feminist icons. Get ready to be surprised. Then we'll focus on women's representation in politics. In communist Poland, Women's Day came with a gift. A red carnation and maybe a pair of pantyhose, the kind of post-war luxury item that remained enshrined in tradition until the 90s. And that was pretty much all they got. Communist Poland was not as progressive on gender equality as, say, former East Germany. Today, if Poland were a US state, in terms of women's rights, it would be Alabama, with a total abortion ban and rather dismal gender proportions in leadership positions. And yet politically, Poland is now at the vanguard of European middle-of-centre democracy, while countries like Italy, France or Germany have rising far-right movements, all headed by women. These women hold key positions in parties that push traditional family roles. Their influence doesn't promote women's emancipation, but it does soften the perceived misogyny and extremism. This tactic, known as the feminine face of the far right, makes them more palatable to a broader electorate. The most successful representative of the far right with a human, female face is Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. In her 2011 book, We Believe, she declared, "I am a right-wing woman and I proudly support women's issues." Ambitious and competent, juggling the highest government role with being a single mother of two, she could indeed be an admirable example of gender parity. Except the ideology she embodies is in stark opposition to who she is. The traditional gender roles she promotes should relegate her to carpooling with other mums for school pickup. She laments low marriage rates, though she never married and her kids were born out of wedlock. She denies women the right to raise children with a female partner while criticizing single motherhood. Despite being the highest earner in her government, she's done nothing to address pay gaps and has appointed just 6 women to her 25-member cabinet, also to the most powerless ministries. Similarly, Marine Le Pen of France's National Rally portrays herself as the modern mother of the nation, a narrative that emphasizes traditional roles despite her being a twice-divorced single mum. She opposes gay marriage but has at least conceded to civil unions. She currently lives with her childhood friend, a woman. But it's Alice Weidel, the leading figure of Germany's second-largest party, the AfD, who presents the greatest complexity. Openly lesbian, she's raising 2 sons with her Sri Lankan-born wife in Switzerland, where she pays taxes. Her party has a bellicose approach to national interests, rails against migration, and defines family as a father, mother and children in its election manifesto. Domestic intelligence agencies label the AfD as extremist, and at her election celebration, supporters chant Alice für Deutschland, a play on Hitler's stormtrooper mantra, Alles für Deutschland, or everything for Germany. As Konstantin Fortmann told The Guardian, Alice Weidel serves as a kind of fig leaf, because if you say the AfD is racist, you can point to her partner who's not white. And a senior AfD official told the Financial Times that there's in fact no paradox. She's gay by biology, but not by political conviction. Let's unpack this ideological twister with another example from across the Atlantic. Since taking office, Donald Trump has blamed workplace equity for nearly everything, even the deadly DC plane crash that killed 67 people. His administration has successfully pressured Romania to release the Tate brothers, prominent figures of the manosphere, arrested on charges of rape, trafficking minors and money laundering. Meanwhile, the zeitgeist seems to be all boobs, no brains, literally displayed on Inauguration Day with Mark Zuckerberg channeling his adolescent masculine energy. It's also striking that, in contrast to the past prudishness towards political leaders' sexual lives, this US administration has the highest quota of sex offenders. Chairing it is a man convicted of sexual assault who has decimated reproductive rights and degraded women both publicly and privately. And now he's been declared a feminist hero and even a feminist icon. How did that happen? The reason for this praise, with a hefty dose of amnesia, is Trump's attack on transgender rights. Splits within the feminist movement, some of which oppose trans rights, provide another fig leaf, this time for Trump's misogyny.
I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them.
In her book, Enemy Feminisms, Sophie Lewis explores how such offshoots align with far-right politics, with historical archetypes like the colonial civilizer, the KKK feminist, the pornophobe, or the prohibitionist. Now there are new iterations like the Islamophobe or the trans-exclusionary. Take the French Collectif Nemesis, named after the Greek goddess of revenge, a group that calls itself feminist and identitarian. Its stance is that non-European immigrants, especially Muslims, pose the greatest threat of violence towards women. Running counter to these very categorical declarations are statistics showing that women overwhelmingly experience violence in their own homes. Events like the groundbreaking Pellicot trial, where 50 rape defendants were involved, mostly white, despite Dominique Pellicot's insistence on recruiting Black and Arab men online, are conveniently brushed aside. These movements are authoritarian and often religious in affiliation, with key proponents that include feminist icons like Trump, Vladimir Putin, Viktor Orban, and the Vatican. But those movements are persuasive because they offer women easy answers. You'll be safe if all trans women, Arabs, Mexicans, feel as appropriate, are taken off the streets. Or you'll be taken care of if you renounce your rights, such as equal pay, or your freedoms, like access to contraceptives. This is best embodied by the tradwife movement, a conservative response to what is essentially a societal failure, like unequal work environments and the lack of support for working mothers. It's a bit of a fairy tale, a retreat to an idealized past where women could escape the complexities of modern society. After all, wouldn't it be nice to live on one income, be a lady who lunches, or just arrange cushions? This conservative fantasy is aspirational precisely because it's a choice reserved for the few, those well off or married to someone who can support an entire family. And once again, at the forefront of these theories are women whose identities are walking oxymorons. Take the young and ambitious Thaïs Descuffon, an anti-feminist militant, former far-right spokesperson, already saddled with a suspended sentence for inciting racial hatred. A real high achiever, she runs prolific social media channels targeting incels, blaming their loneliness on social media and dating apps, because apparently women now have too many choices. Hence, and I'm quoting, women can claim much more than they deserve because, thanks to dating apps, they have access to that top 25 to 5% of the world's most attractive men. I'm sorry, it's hard to say that with a straight face. Wow, girls, did you know we have that kind of access? Unfortunately, despite the copious cleavage, Thaïs Descuffon has yet to secure a husband and some very white children, even though by her own logic, she should stop wrapping her little mind around politics and relax at home with some laundry. In any case, since Trump's election, many Democrats have echoed her talking points, blaming their party for neglecting white men while focusing too much on woke politics. Serious systemic issues certainly need addressing: migration pressure, women's safety, low birth rates, educational lags among boys, high suicide rates among men, and a culture that stigmatizes them without offering alternatives to hurtful masculinity tropes. Whatever the solutions, one thing is clear: these problems won't vanish just by handing women a carnation and sending them home to bake muffins. Although women's participation in politics in EU countries has steadily increased over the years, great disparities remain among member states. Let's see who's ahead and who lags behind.
Hey, my dear.
As the first woman to lead the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen symbolizes a groundbreaking shift in the traditionally male-dominated corridors of EU power.
Good morning.
Despite the European Union's proclamations of equality and justice, key institutions, like the very European Commission von der Leyen heads, still struggle to achieve a balanced representation.
I worked intensively with the member states, and we were able to improve the share to 40% women and 60% men.
Thank you very much.
However, while von der Leyen's leadership is celebrated, it also highlights the fact that such achievements are exceptions rather than the rule. The Commission's overall lack of gender parity is a reminder that systemic reforms could be needed to truly reflect the EU's commitment to equality. Kaja Kallas stands as another compelling example of female leadership in Europe. She came onto the political stage as the Prime Minister of Estonia and rose to the position of EU's foreign policy chief. Known for her dynamic approach to European integration amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Kallas has swiftly become a symbol of modern governance.
For us, it is important that we stay together and work together, because this is the way we are strong.
Her leadership style has not only helped steer Estonia through challenging times, but also inspired many across the continent to create a united front policy-wise. A shift has taken effect in gender equality rankings, with Sweden having now surpassed Iceland as the best place for working women, according to a recent press release by The Economist Group. The report credits Sweden's progressive policies, including robust welfare programs and generous parental leave, with creating an environment where female professionals can thrive. The median wage gap among OECD countries has remained steady at 11.4% after years of gradual decline before the COVID pandemic. Meanwhile, in a year marked by historic elections, the average representation of women in parliaments across the OECD climbed to 34%. On the other side of the spectrum, Japan, Turkey and South Korea are last on the list for the 11th consecutive year. This can be explained in part by ingrained societal norms and a consistently large wage gap. The gap between male and female education achievements, however, widened to 8.1 percentage points. 45% of working-age women in the OECD have tertiary education, compared to 36.9% of men. Across Europe, countries like Iceland, Norway, Finland and Denmark continue to lead in the representation of women in both politics and the workforce.
Ah, those Nordic countries. Thank you for staying with us. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.